Long ago, in the city of Babylon, there were a group of
11 wise men.
No, there were 3 wise men.
They were scholars who looked at the formation of stars. One night, they noticed something different.
Look at the sky tonight.
Oh my, look at that star.
It's yellow and white. It's sparkly and glittery.
It's different from the usual stars. It's almost like it's twinkling just for us.
I read in ancient scrolls that sometimes, when a special star appears, it means something amazing is going to happen.
After a lot of studying, they found something very exciting. An ancient prophecy that said that a new star would appear to mark the birth of a very special king.
If this star is guiding us to a special king, we must follow it.
Let's prepare for a journey.
So the wise men made plans for their big adventure. They packed their bags with all the things they needed.
Clothes, shorts, socks, maybe some hats if it gets sunny.
I will pack a full-course meal, and that's it.
What about a jacket? Wear the jacket.
Shorts, pants, socks, and some shoes, so that way you'll have things to wear. And like maybe some sunglasses and a hat. A present for Jesus.
I can hardly wait. Let's see what we'll find.
With their camels packed and their hearts full of hope, they went to sleep to prepare for the journey ahead. The wise men didn't know exactly where the star was going to lead them, but they believed it was part of a bigger story and decided they must follow it. They hoped the star would guide them safely, but they knew that no matter what, they were prepared and ready to meet this new king, Jesus.
Hey guys, welcome back to Primer Podcast. Back this week for a brand new series and right in the first of Advent. I'm so excited about
kicking off the Christmas road trip.
Hey, yeah, yep. I love Christmas and I love the season, but yeah, it can be a little busy sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is particularly busy when you've got little ones. I feel like I'm running around to all the things and trying to make Christmas magical,
Right.
And we are missing the element of snow that you get in the Midwest a little bit, so you got to work extra hard to make sure it's magical. That's kind of an unfair advantage. You get snow on Christmas, and it's like you don't have to do anything else.
But you can the magic is you can wear shorts.
That is magic, exactly. Well, this series we're looking at the story of the wise men, and we're really exploring their journey. We're calling it the Christmas road trip. The reality is none of us have a whole lot of answers about the wise men, but it's fun to consider their story. And I think in many ways, the story of the wise men is remarkably relatable for you and I. So why don't we start by reading Matthew 2, and we'll just read 1 and 2, and we'll dive in there.
Okay. So after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him."
Okay, awesome. So again, this is one of those remarkably familiar stories, and we talk a lot about the wise men, and we talk about the star, and every nativity scene has a star, kind of sparkling above it, and every movie has the star that kind of guides it. I remember, kids' books growing up where the star was all sparkly and looked like it was
popped out.
Yeah, it was like a perpetual shooting star. Somehow it stayed in the exact same place, even though it had that flaming tail. But one of the things that I didn't talk about much as a kid, nor as an adult, is asking the question, how did these wise men know to follow the star? So Jessica, how do you think the wise men knew to follow this star?
Well, again, like you said, I don't know that I've thought about it a whole lot. And to be honest, I guess I assumed that there's something in the Old Testament
Yeah.
that would have made them know that this was coming, or they had a sign, or they had a vision, or they had a dream, or something in that sense.
Yeah. Well, I think the short answer is we don't really know.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is that it says that they come from the east, and so we probably think they came from Persia. Which
So they're not
Jewish.
They're not Jewish, so they don't know.
So it's not necessarily like they wouldn't have access to the Old Testament necessarily, and certainly wouldn't be studying it religiously. But one of the things that I find really interesting is that before there was Persia, there was Babylon, and in the Old Testament, in the book of Daniel, what do we see happens in Babylon? That Babylon takes captive the Jewish people. And one of their acts of their captivity or their oppression is to take the wisest among the Jewish people and bring them into the courthouse of the Babylonian king and set them up as effectively wise men. Mm-hmm. Right? And so we see Daniel, we see Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we see others that have been hand selected by the Babylonian governors to come and participate in their royal courts, to be advisors to the king, to be advocates to the Jewish people, right? There's this kind of this sense where they're creating some voice and buy-in in the Jewish people who have found themselves in this kind of exile. And one of the things that I think is really neat to think about is the prophecies that would have been privy to Daniel and those other wise men, those other advisors. And I just think about, perhaps they were having conversations with others that they were now kind of brought into and sharing in culture with. And now some of this Jewish prophetic text that has come straight from God has now influenced the Babylonian sacred text at the same time, where scrolls have been recorded and saved, and prophecies that are found in the Old Testament scripture are now shared across cultures, and that those scrolls survived when Persia came and destroyed Babylon and took those over. And so there are these wise men now that are sitting in very similar probably roles of advisors to the king and studiers of the prophecies and the texts, the ancient texts of their people, but also all these other people. And because of Israel's captivity, they now have opportunity to read the stories and the prophecies of the one true God, and they're on the lookout for this star that comes from the prophecy. And I just think that's so cool, because it also, like, it does this little bit of this zoom out piece, right? Where so often we have these challenges that we face in our lives and we just don't know why at all. And sometimes I think it's because we're so focused on something that's happening right here in front of us. And when we can zoom out and see it like God sees it, now it suddenly makes sense. And so you look at Daniel, who's thrown in the lion's den, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who are thrown into the fiery furnace, and these horrible, horrible trials that they face. Israel, who's having all this oppression. And meanwhile, you zoom the picture out, and it becomes a gospel invitation that extends beyond the walls of one people group into all the nations, really, in a beautiful way. But the second is that they're looking for it, right? I don't know about you, but
so it's almost like they've heard,
and
it may just be little bits and pieces that they've heard, but then so they're intrigued, and then they see a star, and so, like, I would be intrigued, to try to figure out.
They make
this true.
Yeah, they make this connection between the two things where sure, maybe they had access to that prophecy, but it probably wasn't central to who they were. Yeah. But they were intently looking for any signs of God's fingerprints on the world. And they see that fingerprint in a star, and they follow. And I think that's such an important message for us as we enter into the Advent season, is that the wise men, in the midst of chaos and all sorts of, the empires being overthrown, are still looking for God. And I think Advent is this season, Christmas is this season where distractions are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what would you say in the Christmas season are the things that are kind of drawing your attention away from looking for God's fingerprints?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it's like the gifts, right? You're trying to find the perfect gift for everybody, and then also trying to make sure that the dinners are perfect, and the time together is perfect, and then on top of it, you have your everyday life. So you have your work, you have and so like we're in the middle of home renovations, and so the home renovations are smack in the middle of it, and trying to make sure that it doesn't mess up Christmas, and what we think of Christmas is really just that time together with family. And so it can.
Yeah, I think we get so fixated, I was mentioning it earlier on making, Christmas magical and making sure the experience of Christmas is just right, that we miss out on being present to the God whom Christmas celebrates. And I think I'm the same way. It's like you gotta get the Christmas lists right.
Mm-hmm.
Not only have to get presents that are good, you also have equal lists. Because
right.
if one boy gets too many presents and the other doesn't, like,
hey, mine are 20 and almost 24, and they still are.
They're gonna blow up, and it's gonna be bad news. You gotta make sure that the food all looks perfect, just like you're saying. And we're just in this constant cycle of making Christmas happen, that we miss the Christmas story, right? We miss what has already happened and the foundation of everything that we're trying to do. And so, I think that this story of the wise men, the first reminder that I think it gives us as we enter into Advent is to be prepared for Christmas, be looking for God, be present to what God is doing in a way that draws us into this deeper sense of his love and his transformation that can happen during this season.
Yeah, go into every day and every activity looking for God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great to have that in our mindset moving forward through this, like I said, busy season.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, guys, we hope that you enjoy the discussion questions with your group or your individual study, and we'll see you next week.
See you soon.